You don't have a bedroom. You have a jur, a round felt tent that your mother packed, loaded onto a cart, and had fully assembled before you finished rubbing the sleep out of your eyes. This is your home. It moves. Everything you own fits on 2 camels. And somehow, that feels completely normal to you. You were born on the Mongolian steppe in the late 1100s. There is no city nearby, no school, no lunchbox with your name on it, just endless grass, brutal winters, and a horse that you've been riding since you were 5. Not for fun, for survival. By age 8, you already know how to read the wind. You know which clouds bring a 3-day blizzard. You know how to slaughter a sheep, dry the meat, and make it last 2 weeks. Your childhood is basically a wilderness survival course, except nobody gave you a certificate at the end. Your father is a warrior. Your grandfather was a warrior. The concept of growing up to become anything else has never once crossed your mind, mostly because there is nothing else. No career counselor, no aptitude test, no guidance office with a poster on the wall that says, "Dream big." The steppe already made that decision for you before you were born. At night, you sleep under a sky so wide and so full of stars that it feels like the universe forgot to put a ceiling on it. Your mother tells you the stars are the eyes of your ancestors watching over the tribe. You believe her. Out here, that kind of thing is not mythology. It is weather forecast, navigation system, and life philosophy, all at once. The tribe moves with the seasons: spring grazing grounds, summer camps near rivers, winter positions sheltered from the northern wind. You have never lived in the same place twice, and yet you have never once felt lost. The steppe is not a place you live in, it is a place that lives inside you. At 13, the training stops being training and starts being something else entirely. Something that leaves bruises. Every morning before sunrise, you're on horseback, not trotting, galloping, shooting arrows at full speed at targets your instructor placed 200 meters away. You do it until your fingers bleed and your arms stop shaking, not from fear, but from exhaustion. The Mongol army doesn't have a boot camp with a 12-week graduation ceremony. It has a system called the Arban, units of 10 warriors. You are one of 10. You eat together, fight together, and if one of you runs from battle, all 10 of you answer for it. Accountability culture taken to its absolute extreme. You learn 3 things above everything else. First, never lose your horse. A Mongol warrior without a horse is just a very tired person walking toward his own funeral. Second, always carry dried meat and blood sausage. You can ride for days without stopping for a real meal. Third, loyalty to your unit is everything. The steppe doesn't care about your feelings, neither does your commander. Your instructor is a man of approximately 50 years who has never once raised his voice. He doesn't need to. When he looks at you after a poor performance, the silence is louder than anything he could say. You learn faster from that silence than from any instruction he ever gave out loud. No participation trophy, no encouraging feedback sandwich, just silence, and the expectation that you already know what it means. You also learn intelligence work. How to read enemy camp formations from a hillside without being seen. How to count soldiers by counting cook fires at night. How to deliver a message on horseback across 300 kilometers without stopping at a single inn. Because there are no inns. There is only the horse, the wind, and the message that must arrive. By 16, you've participated in your first real raid. Nobody cheered for you. Nobody gave you a trophy. You came back alive. That was the trophy. By now, Genghis Khan has unified the Mongol tribes. This sounds like a political achievement. What it actually means for you is that the raids got bigger, the distances got longer, and the man giving orders has stopped tolerating failure in any form whatsoever. You are part of the most sophisticated military machine the medieval world has ever seen, and it looks nothing like what people imagine. No heavy armor, no castle walls, no slow infantry marching in straight lines. Just speed, deception, psychological warfare so effective that entire cities surrendered before a single arrow was fired. You ride with 5 horses. Not 1, 5. You rotate them constantly so they never tire. While European knights were dragging themselves across the continent on one exhausted stallion, you were covering 150 kilometers a day. Your supply chain is your saddle. Your logistics system is your stomach. The tactics are brutally simple and devastatingly effective. Feigned retreat. You pretend to run, the enemy chases, and then 10,000 archers appear from behind a hill. Every single time it works, because apparently no army in the world got the memo. The Mongol communication system is something people in this century genuinely cannot comprehend. A network of riders and signal fires stretching across the entire empire. A message from the Eastern Front reaches the Khan's tent in days. No satellites, no cell towers, no group chat notifications that everyone ignores. Just discipline, horses, and a relay system so precise it would make modern logistics engineers cry into their spreadsheets. When a city surrenders peacefully, it is spared. When a city resists, it is an archaeology site within a week. You've watched both happen. You don't judge, you just ride to the next one. Promotion in this army is not about seniority. It is not about who you know or where you went to school, because nobody went to school. It is entirely about performance. A man from the lowest family in the poorest tribe can command 1,000 soldiers if he proves himself in the field. That is either deeply inspiring or deeply terrifying, depending entirely on how good you are at your job. Here's what nobody tells you about conquering the world. It doesn't stop. There is no finish line. No moment where someone hands you a plaque and says, "All right, you've done enough, go home." Genghis Khan's campaigns stretched from China to Persia, from the frozen rivers of Siberia to the gates of Eastern Europe. You have ridden through all of it. Deserts that cracked your lips in 3 days, mountain passes where your horse screamed from the cold, cities that smelled of burning for weeks after you left. You are 47 years old. Your knees hurt constantly from 30 years in the saddle. You have a scar on your left forearm from a siege in Khwarezm that you've stopped explaining to people because the story takes too long. 2 men from your original Arban are still alive. You don't talk about the others. The empire is enormous now, and with size comes a new problem: politics. Suddenly, there are administrators, governors, tax collectors. There are arguments about who controls which trade route. There are letters written in languages you don't speak, being carried by messengers you don't trust. You spent your entire life learning how to defeat an enemy you could see. Nobody prepared you for enemies that arrive in the form of paperwork. You were built for the steppe, for the open horizon and the immediate enemy. Not for this. Not for budget disputes about grain storage in a city you conquered 7 years ago and haven't thought about since. Not for whatever this is. The younger soldiers look at you differently now. Not with disrespect, with something closer to distance. They grew up hearing about the campaigns you were actually inside of. To them, you are already history. You are still here, still breathing, still capable of outriding men half your age on a good day. But in their eyes, you already belong to a different era. That is a strange thing to feel while you are still alive. And then Genghis Khan dies, in 1227, officially from injuries after a hunting accident. The details are vague. Nobody asks too many questions. Smart people never did. You outlived him. That itself is something. You are 63 years old, and you are sitting outside your gur somewhere in the heart of the steppe. Your grandson is trying to shoot a rabbit with a bow 2 sizes too big for him. He keeps missing. You don't correct him yet. Let him figure out the angle first. The empire fractured after the Khan died. His sons divided it. Then his grandsons divided it again. The great machine you spent your life inside is now 4 separate kingdoms arguing with each other in 4 different directions. Empires, it turns out, are much easier to build than to keep. Every general who ever lived already knows this. The politicians always find out too late. Your body carries the full record of everything you survived. The knee that never healed right. The 2 fingers on your right hand that won't straighten anymore. The hearing in your left ear that disappeared somewhere in a battle you can barely remember. You don't complain. Complaining was never part of the vocabulary out here. People from the nearest settled towns sometimes come to ask you questions. Younger men who want to know what it was really like. What Genghis Khan was really like in person. Not the legend, not the story told around fires, but the actual man standing in front of you, giving an order. You always pause before you answer that one. Not because you don't remember, because you're not sure they are ready for the answer. What you have instead is this: you know exactly who you are. You were never confused about your purpose. You never spent a single morning staring at the ceiling wondering what your life was supposed to mean. The steppe gave you clarity the way it gave you everything else, without asking permission and without softening the delivery. The world you were born into and the world your grandson is growing up in are already different. The trade routes are open now. Merchants from places you conquered are selling silk and spice through lands you once rode through with fire. Somewhere out there, your campaigns accidentally created the most connected trading network in human history. You weren't trying to build a road, you were trying to win. And yet, here it is. Your grandson finally hits the rabbit. He turns around with enormous eyes, waiting for your reaction. You nod once. That's enough. That has always been enough.